So one of the things Huey wanted me to cover happens to be having its 60th anniversary this year. And since I don't do enough kaiju movies, I suppose I should oblige and give the old moth her dues. It's the first in a short line of movies within the Godzilla franchise, simply titled Mothra. While Godzilla might be the ultimate kaiju we all know and love, many still have favorites with the other kaiju that show up in this franchise. Now that I think about it, this really does feel like how the MCU is today, but anyway, Mothra is certainly among the top favorites besides the G-Man himself. The idea for Mothra started in the summer of 1960, when Godzilla creator and producer Tomoyuki Tanaka asked Shinichiro Nakamura to write an original kaiju story, which he did in collaboration with Takahiko Fukunaga and Zene Hata. Their story, The Luminous Fairies and Mothra, which got serialized January of 1961 in Asahi Weekly, would then become the basis of the movie that came out July of that year, directed by Ishiro Honda, who directed the first Godzilla in 1954, as well as many other kaiju films for Toho Studios. Even before then, they had meetings with Toho about what could be done for a story, like what powers Mothra would have, what certain characters would do, and how they would approach the story as a whole. Since we are talking about a kaiju who ends up becoming one of the more heroic beings, in the sense that Mothra doesn't actively cause trouble, while the other monsters will get in a few building swipes before fighting the actual antagonist of the movie. But I think we'll need to actually start watching the movie before we get a better idea on just what they considered versus what made it in the end. So without further ado, here's Mothra. Now for the record, I'm using the English dub as distributed by Columbia Pictures in 1962. And as far as the Godzilla wiki goes, 10 minutes of film was removed and some scenes rearranged. But at least it got double billing with the Three Stooges. I wonder how they'd feel about seeing a giant moth in their neck of the woods. Anyway, we open at what I think is a weather facility that's keeping track of a typhoon that's brewing and is warning other stations that the Daini Genyo Maru is near this storm and to expect distress signals soon. As for those aboard, they know how they're near some uninhabited island, named Infant Island, though in this dub it's called Beirut, that was used for atomic testing. And of course, the storm knocks them into the reef, meaning they have to abandon ship. Guess that's what happens when you make your ship out of cheap plastic material. Yes, I know these are model ships for the purpose of filming. Let me have my fun! A rescue team comes the following day and seems to find 4 survivors. And even though this is an English dub, no translation for the floating news headline. Yeah, it's an old dub, so maybe they couldn't put in subtitles for it, even with whatever masters they have. Everyone's trying to figure out if they're alright, but they don't seem to be that talkative at the moment. It's also here we get acquainted with a couple members from the press, Michi Hanamura, played by Kyoko Kagawa, and Shinichiro Fukuda, played by Frankie Sakai.
It's highly irregular. There's danger of radiation.
They're all normal though, aren't they?
Since you're here now, I guess I can't throw you out.
Better not, he's a bulldog.
Bulldog?
Well, if you can't keep this from the public, might as well let it be told by the guy with the name Bulldog, or Snapping Turtle in the original Japanese version. Anyway, he asks them about why they aren't suffering from radiation sickness, and they say it might have been the juice that the natives on the island gave them. Now, this raises the question of how there are natives on a supposedly uninhabited island used for atomic testing by the Relasican government. The country of Relasica is obviously made up for this movie and is a stand-in for both the US and Soviet Union. Since they need to clarify what is going on with that island, they plan to send a joint expedition team with Japan to explore the island. One of the people going is one Shinichi Chujo, played by Hiroshi Koizumi, who definitely does not like his picture taken.
What is it? A mouse!
I'm so sorry. Oi! Shinji! Shinji!
Yes?
There it goes, under the
Get your
couch.
mouse.
My god, Kennies! 3 of them! They better not get in the way of dealing with the monster in this flick.
Mouse?
Now get your Kenny little butts out of here. Anyway, Chujo is hopeful this will lead to great discoveries, like if they were to find Atlantis and all that. But moving on, we get 2 more people going on this trip. Dr. Harada and Clark Nelson, played by Jerry Ito, who is the leader of the expedition. Nelson doesn't want the press going along since he doesn't seem to need them, but that's not going to stop Fukuda from sneaking aboard anyway. He's a bulldog, damn it. Once he gets a hold of something, he won't let go. But already it seems there's something about Nelson we don't know about.
He's issued an order that any data that is collected is to be cleared through him.
Why, that's absurd. He isn't a scientist. I'm beginning to suspect there's more to him than meets the eye.
But why? Brackett is no mad dog killer. He is after something.
In any case, Fukuda gets caught by Nelson, and for a moment, I almost believed that he was considering killing our hero given that face of his. I'm guessing he's willing to become the first human villain in a kaiju movie, and considering what happens... yeah, but not this time. Fukuda gets pulled away, and in the next scene, as everyone is preparing to enter the radioactive area, it's said that he'll be part of the expedition team. Despite doubts about Nelson, they don't really have much of a choice but to continue. And so with their protective suits, they set foot on the island. Look at all the people that are going on this trip. I wonder how many will end up dying by the end. Anyway, they make another major discovery. Trees! They're so real you could touch it. Like an art illustration. Better hope no dinosaurs come out. Though better them than possibly getting shot by Fukuda by accident, because he's an idiot. Though I suppose when you're played by a comedian, they have to be for the sake of comedy. For Chujo, he's already in some gross overgrown cave. He then gets attacked by a vampire plant, and while his distress beacon sounds off, he gets choked and sees... I see. Peanuts. Well, he's not wrong, but we'll get into that later. He gets rescued shortly after, and he tells them what he saw. Tiny women who were smaller than even human children. All Fukuda can think of is how beautiful they must be, even though he already has Hanamura. Whatever. Using the sound of the distress signal, Chujo is able to attract the 2 tiny women again.
Can you give us some idea of what they're saying?
Not even a second to show the girls talking to them, and they ask that. Methinks they trimmed this, but without the Japanese version, I can't really say for sure. Fukuda seems to guess that they don't want their island to be used for more tests and to be left alone. They nod, and then everybody left the island. The end.
All right, baby, come to Papa. Stop them! What are you doing? Release those girls.
Ugh, it's always the Relasikins who have to start trouble for everybody else. And they're so powerful that the girls turn into dolls for a moment. They obviously won't let the 2 go and even draw guns on the expedition team. But then...
We're surrounded. Scatter.
well, obviously they want their doll-sized girls back, but if you absolutely must have them, trade them one of these. Well, it looks like the bad guys have no choice but to listen to their fellow Relasican leader, and they let the girls go. The natives are pleased. Everyone returns home, where everyone is eagerly awaiting to hear what was found on the island. But in the meantime, Fukuda and Chujo are trying to learn more about Nelson, and they seem to believe he's some crooked figure based on a previous expedition he was on. Otherwise, Chujo tells him about the cave he found and the strange symbols that were there.
What is this key word? Mothra. Mothra? What's it mean?
I don't know.
Well, I imagine this was going to lead into the origin of our title creature and the 2 girls, but they had to cut it out of the final draft due to it being too long. Speaking of the girls, they get attracted by the sound of the suits again, and are once again taken by the evil men. Man, how easy would it have been to just ignore the sound that only brought you to these assholes twice? The natives return, but guess what? The bad guys have guns. Oh no, I've been shot! Oh, the pain, the pain. Well, this old guy seems to have a bit of blood on him as he goes to call out,
Mothra!
My God, the Earth had a baby! Well, news gets out that Nelson has the twins, and Fukuda tells his boss why he didn't break the news earlier because he and everyone else wanted to leave them alone. Well, it didn't work, and now the fairies, or shobijin in the Japanese version, meaning small beauties, are going to be subjected to that common tradition of commercial exploitation on exotic life. No amount of cool effects will convince me otherwise. In universe, I mean. Movie-wise, this is pretty good. And then they sing. Now earlier I mentioned Peanuts, and that's because these two were members of a popular Japanese vocal duo called the Peanuts. Their real names are Emi and Yumi Ito, twin sisters who were contracted into this movie due to the uniqueness of the role they played, though not without some schedule conflict for shooting. The song they sing in both versions of the movie is actually in Indonesian, in order to give it that mythical island feel. Either way, this is a lovely song and all, but, if anyone were to actually translate what they're saying, not that anyone in-universe would have if we're to assume this was a unique language, then I think it's pretty clear that this is a call for help. Seems our two male heroes suspect something of the sort, but otherwise, back on their island, the natives are performing their own ritual of sorts. Anyway, Hanamura wants to interview the girls due to their treatment, but Nelson rejects them. He has no intention to return the Shobujin to the island because it's making him money. He does decide to let them see the girls, without cameras, and I'm only now just realizing Chujo's son was here the entire time. Great, so we are getting a Kenny for this movie. Well, it seems like our heroes want to help the two out, and they do speak their language after all.
We can make you understand our thoughts.
Telepathy, is that it?
Even though their lips are moving, whatever. They warned them about the danger that's coming and that they might get hurt by the being known as Mothra, who will soon arrive to bring them home. Well, she has to actually show up first, so let's have it. It's so beautiful! For a larva, that is. Word gets out that an unknown creature was heading toward Japan and that it must be Mothra, since that's what the twins told them of. And indeed, as we see that she's being guided by the invisible force that is their song.
He's going to ram us! Forward! Hand over!
Of course, she's just lucky Godzilla wasn't around. Like with superheroes, no one else is around when trouble arises. Well, regardless, Nelson refuses to do anything, meaning there's only one thing to do. Steal the twins, but they need to get past the one guard.
Don't do that.
Why,
Don't do that, I told you. All right.
Okay, multiple guards now. But it's okay. Fukuda can show them his bulldog skills.
Let go! Let go! Oh, my leg! My leg! Did you hit me? I'm not known as bulldog for nothing.
Well, since the twins can't do anything to stop Mothra's advance in reaching them, they might as well try to cut off the telepathic link between them. While they figure that out, Mothra continues swimming in the ocean. Though even if they cut off the connection, she's just gonna make a beeline for Tokyo anyway, so might as well try bombing her with napalm. It didn't work. Her hide must be as thick as Godzilla's. Or Rodan. I'm sure Japan's been attacked several times by now, but you'd think her larva form would be just a bit squishier than the others. Well, now Nelson is slightly concerned, since even though he believes Mothra is dead, he's gonna take the boxed twins anyway. Oh, and what a shock! Mothra is ashore now! And despite warnings, Nelson still won't do a damn thing. Speaking of damn, though... maybe now Nelson will give a damn. Sorry. Our main human heroes show up to watch this unfold while people begin evacuating. They help this one family, though Fukuda has to rescue the baby that got left behind. Pretty intense stuff.
Chujo says Mothra attacks us because Nelson will not let the little girls go back to their island.
So even though Mothra is considered a more heroic monster than Godzilla and the like, she still acts like all the monsters by causing needless destruction on innocents. But at least it's towards an actual bad guy? Well, who better to rescue the girls than our Kenny of the movie, Shinji? At least he's not annoying like the ones from the Gamera movies. Plus he's not advocating to protect a monster that did nothing but attack for no reason. But he still fails. Because he's a Kenny. Anyway, turns out the Rolasican embassy wants Nelson to return the Shobijin due to the destruction being caused. Speaking of, Mothra faces the Japanese military, and of course, it is glorious for the time. They're just lucky Mothra can't attack anything in the air, as she's stuck on the ground. After minutes of her rampaging through Shibuya, she reaches Tokyo Tower, where, after they knock her down for a moment, she does something unusual. Probably unintentional, but what she's really doing is making a cocoon. Where's Nelson during all this? Why, he's boarding a flight to Rolasica because he still doesn't want to give up the girls. What a conniving coward. Well, as Mothra lingers in her cocoon, everyone wonders what to do now. They bring heat rays to try burning her through the peanut-shaped cocoon. It seems to work, and Nelson even celebrates his time in Rolasica.
Maniacal laugh. Maniacal laugh. Maniacal laugh. Maniacal laugh.
But then, as the twins begin singing again, we see that Mothra survived and now resembles her poster art. The Japanese poster, I mean. The American one is just... what the hell? She's like a beautiful flying fur baby. Now she's heading to Rolasica, specifically Newkirk City, and even now, Nelson refuses to surrender. Now I know that during the movie we had primitive blue screen effects going on everywhere, but this one feels especially off. And apparently this was like this in the Japanese version as well. Well, either way, it's really bad. Clearly, the small soldiers are no match for the flying bug creature, as even her wings repel mortar fire. The people have had it with Nelson's shit and demand him to come out and return the Shobijin. And as much as it would have been cool to have Nelson face the wrath of Mothra like in an earlier draft, it seems he gets gunned down after shooting an officer. Not cool. They still need to figure out how to get Mothra to stop attacking the city now that the twins are saved. But how?
Do you remember this? The inscription from the cave.
Of course! God will save us! See, I knew that Salty movie had a connection to this one. The answer was always Christianity. Using the church bells and drawing a massive symbol on a runway, they bring Mothra down to it and she politely lands without issue.
Thank you, good friends. Thank you for letting us return to our island. Our wish for you is that you will have peace and happiness.
After having destroyed our cities and or having killed some people just to get to one guy who got killed by somebody else, she flies away and everyone's happy. Well, except Fukuda, because Hanamura forgot to take pictures. Ah well, Mothra returns home and now the Shomajin perform for their native friends. Well, that was a lot of fun. I can certainly see why people love Mothra as part of Toho's Big Five Kaiju. The other four being Godzilla, of course, Rodan, King Ghidorah, and Mechagodzilla. It really does feel like a different kind of kaiju movie that makes the human element work well, what with characters we can like and a villain we can all despise. And even though Mothra still causes wanton destruction on innocent people, it is within some justification that an evil man brought harm to her home and this is payback. Mothra only wanted to bring back her two friends, which she did, and they all went home as we hoped they would. She doesn't experience any form of death that most monsters get at the end of their movies, so it's fair to say that she can be left alone, at least until the next time she's needed. Naturally, the monster effects in this movie were pretty amazing for the time, as to be expected from the father of Tokusatsu, E.G. Tsuburaya, who helped in that department. And even though their limited budget prevented them from utilizing the ending they wanted during the final major attack scenes, they still made out pretty well with the models and suits created. The score by Yuji Koseki was also pretty good, especially when it came to the Peanuts and their song performances. It very well suits the island aesthetic the characters were part of. Overall, this is definitely a must-see kaiju movie for anyone looking into the origin of these kinds of films. It's certainly a well-likable origin story to one of Godzilla's fellow monsters in the franchise. I'm the Media Hunter. Media's my prey, and reviewing them my way.
I can see their parachutes. They're okay.